Welcome to the Ishop. We're here discussing an interesting topic, one that I know every single camp deals with. That's the concept of storage. I am amazed how much storage is here on property. When I was kind of counting it up, I think there's more square footage in storage than there is in actual cabins. I have no idea if that's your case, but we've got little storage rooms like some of our oldest buildings are storage, but then some of the newest buildings we have also really need to have storage in them. So the three basics of storage. First of all, you've got to understand here with storage, everything has a place. This is harder than you think, and this, directors, is kind of difficult because storage is not cheap. Storage is not inexpensive. Everything has a place means there's got to be four walls, there's got to be a roof over it. Everything that's in storage needs shelves to sit on, needs boxes to be in, or drawers to be put in. Everything has a place. If your storage is going to work for you, everything has a place. And then everything in its place. This is the hard part. So once you pull everything out and you say, okay, everything has a place, now everything's got to go in to its spot, and that's a critical piece for you. And then last basic here is that we're going to label whatever we have for storage. Now, this is for any time that you are looking at 2+ people. When you have 2 or more people working with storage, it's got to be labeled. Now, if it's your own stuff and you're the only one that work with it, chances are your dresser drawers at home are not labeled. You know what's in them. But the toolbox that everybody works out of, that's got to have some labels on it. When you get started here, we've just got to understand everything has a place. Everything's going to be in its place, then we label everything. This now asks the question, what is the goal of storage? Why are we even doing it? What are we trying to accomplish here with this thing? So, the goal of storage is simply to use it. That's why we put it over here. That's why we put it back in that spot. That's why we saved it, so that someday we could actually use it. Now, you've got to have that in mind when you're storing things. It's not just to clean up wherever you were working with or put it away or something like that. It's so that the next guy or even yourself can come back and you can use what that is. So that's why labeling becomes so important, because if I want to come back and use it, I need to label it so that I remember. Now, the moment you put it in that box and put it on that shelf, you can remember that. You might even remember it the next day. Well, what about next year? What about 4 years from now? When you come back, will you remember what's in that box? If you, the use it, the goal right here is a huge piece. So that means that when you are stepping into a storage area, you've got yourself a big question. The big question is, what is the value of what you are looking at in storage? If you look at that item, whatever it is, you're in your storage, you're way in the back, and you pull this thing out, and you're like, hey, look at what this is. And you're like, I could use this. You're answering a value question that says, yes, this has value, or no, it doesn't have value. Now, what do we do if we have these two different things? If no, there's no value to the thing, then what you have is storage that's a glorified dumpster. Okay? So if there is no value there, you need to trash it. That's your job. You need to open up this space because storage is valuable. You've got to get rid of the things that have no value. Now, sometimes they were put in there at the beginning because they thought that maybe it had value, or maybe it has value. We're not really sure, because if you're not sure, you'd rather be safe than sorry. So you store it. But 2 years later, you're like, man, I'm just not using that. There's not the value there that I thought. Or enough time has gone by, it's degraded, it's no longer of any use, and so you trash it. Now, if the answer is yes, there is value to those things, then there's several things that we've got to know what we're going to do. We've got to figure out, are we going to store it? And so that's what you're doing in storage. That's what that building, that closet, that little spot was for. You're going to store it. If it has value, but you're not going to use it, What do we call that? That's what we call a collection, a museum. Maybe something that, this is your little box of mementos. You're not going to use them. You just want to be reminded of them. It's okay to have a collection, but a collection is not necessarily used. It's just a collection. You've got to have a lot more money and ability and square footage to be able to go into big time collecting. If you're going to not use it, you're not going to collect it, but it still has value, you have two more options here of what you can do. You can give it away. So every now and then I'm looking at things that I'm pulling out of storage and I'm like, I'll bet this camp could use this, but the cost to ship it is greater than the cost of what it would take for them to just go buy it. And so yeah, if that person's nearby, or I could give it away, or maybe some of your staff would use that couch that's sitting there. Maybe somebody else would use it, so you give it away. Now, the real test of whether or not it has value is whether or not you can sell it. And so sometimes the best thing that you can do in your storage with some things that have value is to go ahead and sell them, because the dollars that you get from selling it, that you can use. You've just taken an item that you can't necessarily use, but it has value, turned it into money. That's what you need to do. Now, if it takes you so much time to sell it that it's not paying you even half of minimum wage, then once again, you need to give it away, or you need to get rid of it. So that's your goal. Your goal here in storage is to use it. Otherwise, it's just a giant collection. One last thought here for us to think about, and that's this concept of pile management. Oops, you know where my head is right now. There we go. Pile management. This is something that you've got to work through when you're doing storage, because sometimes it just one on top of the other and it gets bigger and bigger. A couple of things happen with your piles. For one, it just gets too big. That pile is so big that I can't get back to it. I can't use it. It's just stuff on top of stuff, and it's too big. The other thing is that my pile management has created a bottleneck. This is the worst. We have a double-wide trailer called home storage, office storage, and there's two doors to get into that. Now, it's like 1,200 square feet of space, so it's a big old room. But the other day, I couldn't even get in the door. So there was a pile that had created a bottleneck that made the rest of storage impossible. It wasn't any bigger than a broom closet to me, because I opened that door, all I could see was the front 3 feet, not the 1,200 feet of space that's there. So pile management is making sure that you don't have a bottleneck. And then lastly, there's some kind of concept of a family of piles. And so this helps people know where things go. Have you ever been at Walmart? You're in the tool section and you see like a big old case of diapers. You're like, what's this doing here? Somebody just set that off, while they were adding or getting things there. That sometimes happens here at your camp. You have a place set aside for these types of things, and then all of a sudden just something is stuck there. Nobody is going to be able to use that because they won't be able to find it. You need a family of piles that said, okay, these are all of our activities and all of that stuff. These are all of our maintenance things, and there's a big pile right there. So dividing up some of your storage rooms, being real clear as to where the family of piles is, that's huge. Now, I've been going through all of our piles and doing all kinds of cleanup here in the last couple of months. I found spray paint cans everywhere. I mean, we had a few here and a couple there. Eventually, I said, you know what? There's so many of them here, I don't think we would know. In fact, if we needed another black can of spray paint, we would just go to Home Depot, because we knew exactly where we could find one to use one. Unbeknownst to us, we have over 20 cans of black spray paint just all over camp, but they weren't in a place where everybody knew where to go to actually use it. It takes work of the entire team to make storage work. Everybody's got to be committed to it. You can't just stash things wherever you think that they would go. You've got to put the organization in. You've got to put the money in. You've got to put the time in. But ultimately, that's so that you can save time, save money as you use it. It's actually a matter of stewardship. Storage is a big deal. Work hard at it. This is harder. I don't write as well, long ways. Well, everything in its